Hi guys, my name is Megan and today I've got some monster reads for you. Alright, so seeing as it is that spooky time of year again, I thought I would bring you guys a bunch of different monster themed reading recommendations. Today's theme is vampires versus witches. For these reading recommendations, I tried to go with some stuff that I don't talk about a whole lot because there's a lot of books that I talk a lot about that fit each of these themes, but I figured these would be some of the ones that I don't give a whole lot of spotlight to. So let's get into what I got for you guys today. Alright, so we're gonna start off with the vampires because I read a lot of books with vampires and there's probably gonna be vampires throughout most of the reading recommendations that I have. But we're not talking about vampires in all of them, we're just talking about vampires today. The first book we're going to talk about today is the first book in the Jazz Park series, which is a series that is very near and dear to my heart. The first book is called Once Bitten, Twice Shy. Okay, so Jazz Parks is our main character and she works with Vale, who works for the CIA as an assassin, and basically Jazz is an assassin's assistant and they go on so many adventures. They take out supernatural creatures that are, planning destruction or terrorism or that kind of thing. It's such a fun, adventure, and it's always a little bit dark to me. I like the atmosphere. It's very kind of a little bit creepy, but also very interesting. This is an OG urban fantasy book series. It's so good. And Jazz is honestly one of my favorite characters in a vampire novel. She's this kick-ass little lady and she doesn't take shit from anybody. This is definitely one that I would highly recommend. It's so good. Okay, next up for the vampires, we're going to the YA for this one. That's going to be the Morganville Vampires. This is book 1, Glass Houses. I got into this series from one of my best friends in high school and I have not finished the series yet. I think there's probably about 4 more books that I haven't got yet, but this book series really is just so good. It's very YA, but it's also kind of dystopian survivalist in a whole town filled with vampires. So Claire is our main character. She moves to Morganville, which is a college town, and she moves out of her dorm because the popular girls at the college are bullying her, and because Claire is 15 or something when she gets into college because she's super smart. She moves out of the dorms before she finds an apartment or a room to rent in the town, and when she does find a room to rent, it is from this kid whose family has been in this town since founding, and this kid may or may not be a ghost, but nobody knows that he's a ghost. This whole town is filled, and it's actually run by vampires. It's just such a really interesting book because there's ghosts, of course, but the whole town is run by vampires, and our main character ends up working for the vampires, which is just so cool and fun. This whole series is just fun adventure full of vampires and cool stuff. It's one of my favorites and I would highly recommend it. So next up for our vampire reads is going to be the Sookie Stackhouse, aka True Blood. I found these books in high school and I immediately fell in love. I love Sookie. I love the whole vampires coming out to the whole world. I love it so much. And I did not actually watch True Blood, the TV show, because it does not actually follow the books very well. And I feel like these books had their heyday back when I was in high school, about when True Blood came out. But seriously, these books are so good. I love the vampires. I love Bill. I love Eric. I love Pam. I love all of my vampires in this series. They're so funny and they're so they're typical of what vampires mean. They're kind of arrogant. They're a little bit standoffish. They're snobby. I love them. This is one of my favorite vampire series of all time, and I don't actually talk about it a whole lot just because I've completely finished the series. This is honestly one of my favorite vampire series of all times. It's so good. Probably definitely not for kids though. Okay, so now we're getting into the witches. And oftentimes when I read books, if there's vampires, there's also witches, which is kind of cool. And maybe also were creatures, but they all kind of live in this symbiotic relationship, I think, even though vampires and witches are kind of usually pitted against each other. I like it anyway. So the first one in the witches section that we're going to recommend would be Wild Mage. This is the first book in the Immortals series. Look, if you guys haven't heard me talk about any books within the Tortall universe, let me tell you right now, this is one of my favorite book series of all time. I have a whole bunch of book reviews for these books if you guys want to know more. I'll leave a link up above. Anyway, so the reason I'm recommending the Immortals is because the main character Dane is is a mage and she can shapeshift and talk to animals, and a lot of the other characters within this universe are magical in some way. They do have magic powers. I really just love this book series, and I kind of had to slip one Tortall book series into one of these recommendations somehow. This is the one that I decided to do it with. So like I said, Dane has these magical powers. She can talk to animals, she can shapeshift into animals, and she can heal them, and it's just such a good book series. Like, honestly, check it out. The next book in this recommendation I'm gonna do is the Witchland series. This is book 1, Truth Witch. It is such a good book series. This one, so the Witchlands are basically almost maybe not almost, like a good percentage of the people in this country are witches, so they have these magical powers, and their magic is kind of like elemental magic, and it's just such a really interesting concept. I love the characters in this are fantastic. This whole thing starts off as a heist novel, and then it turns into a whole bunch of politics, and it's fantastic. So the last book in today's monster reading recommendation is going to be The Gilded Wolves. So this one is technically not witches. Most of the main characters in this do have magical powers. Even though they don't call it magic, they call it forging. So you can basically make items or make things into other things. It's really interesting. It's kind of like a mix of magic and alchemy, but I really love this. This is set in the 1800s in Paris, France, and it's just such a good book, and really it's just, I love the characters in this. This one has a bunch of like diversities. There's a lot of people of color main characters. There's a character with autism. There's a whole bunch of really cool, awesome stuff in this book, and with the magic that's in it, it's just so good. I would highly recommend it, even though technically not a witch book. I would definitely recommend it for this because it's just awesome that way. Alright, so that is all I've got for you guys today for my vampires and witches monster reads. Do you guys like vampires or witches more? Let me know down below. Personally, I think I have to go with vampires. If you guys like this video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. You can also hit the notification button. And if you'd like to follow me on social media, check out the links down below. Alrighty, bye guys!